welcome to the Swedish Gaming Dudes podcast. My name is Johan.
And my name is John.
Yes, and today we're going to talk about one of our favorite game series ever, The Legend of Zelda. A game series that has been very important to both of us in our gaming journey, and talking about our first gaming experiences with these games, and also how it has changed and evolved during all the different consoles and everything that is Zelda today. But before we get into that, what have you been playing lately, John?
Yeah, so just recently, as I played this game that I'm playing, I just pressed the start menu and it said that, yeah, you've passed 100 hours.
Oh.
And that is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on the PS5.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing. I'm still not done. I do believe I just got some few hours left.
Yeah.
And it's just still amazing despite all of the hours that I've put into this. It's just such an immersive experience.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, same for me. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has taken over my life, basically. I completed the game and I've done most of the side activities in it, and it took around 90 hours or something like that. But as you said, time flies when you're taking part in this world, and it's such an amazing game and detailed world, and yeah, all the characters and everything. It's so impressive, especially when you played like the original, and I grew up with that for me since I was a teenager, and now coming back to this world with the graphics and the music and everything that you can do today, you know. It's a completely like immersive experience. So yeah, time flies. It's yeah.
It truly does. Can't really wait until the last part, which comes out in 2028, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And it's it just feels like, you know, you get out of it.
Yeah.
In between these releases, given the fact that, you know, I've spent so much time with Rebirth. Way too much, a lot more time compared to the first part of the game. And now I'm just feeling like, okay, so there's going to be about 3 or 4 years not doing anything with the 7 game again.
Yeah.
And then just have to like remind yourself, okay, what happened? Oh yeah, that was a story.
Yeah. You can start replaying every part, remake and rebirth. I like the new Final Fantasy games have like this new game plus thing that you can keep all your weapons and levels. I think that's a good thing for the Final Fantasy series. I played a lot of FF16 as well. I really love that game. So yeah, I'm thinking going back to that and starting with all the weapons and all the summons and everything. So
sounds good.
Yeah. Amazing game series, by the way. We should do a Final Fantasy pod also.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Legend of Zelda, this 100% classic game. Which one was the first Zelda game for you, John? Was it from the beginning? Did you play the games from the first Nintendo console in the 80s? Or?
Yeah, I believe that, from what I remember, we did not own any of the Zelda games to begin with, but we actually borrowed it from time to time.
Yeah.
And when we had the NES when I was a child, we actually borrowed that game, and I tried to play through it. But, I managed to actually finish the first 3 temples of the game. That is what I remember. And then for some reason, I don't remember myself playing it anymore.
No, okay.
And after that, there were a lot of years where I didn't play, any of the major Zelda games on stationary consoles. So Ocarina of Time for me was the first one that I truly put my heart into, and a lot of hours, and that is the absolute main Zelda game that I just love to death.
Yeah, I totally get you. Yeah. No, a little bit the same for me, actually, because I remember when I was a kid and my brother and me, we saved our money to buy the first Nintendo, 8-bit console. But we never had actually the first or second Zelda game. I remember friends having those and really used to play them at their places. And I thought it was nice games. And I remember the first one, I think, was really hard and where you should go. And now you have more like this open world style today in the newer games. That was like the first time you had that in a game almost. And,
yeah, true.
And also where you're going, and you didn't have a map or anything like that. So
of course.
That sort of freedom,
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting, and you always saw. I used to have this Nintendo Power magazine. Always a lot of Zelda stuff in that, Zelda comic and everything. So I realized it was a big thing with Nintendo, the Zelda games. But my first real experience was when I bought the Super Nintendo and bought The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. That changed the way I looked at Zelda games completely, because I really loved that one. I thought it was a bit, because I was really young when it came out, but it was hard to, with the puzzles and stuff like that. Now it's not that, hard to finish the game. It felt like an achievement just completing one of the dungeons and getting a new item and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I get that.
And it was so cool, like with the style, with the graphic and the sounds as well, and the music. And I especially remember actually the first day I played it, I was coming home from school, and it was raining a lot outside. And when you then started up A Link to the Past, and it rained in the game as well, it started in the evening, and you go out searching for Zelda, and all this weather, and it was like almost a 4D experience, with the real rain outside. I'll never forget that impression. And then stepping out in Hyrule and just going through the dungeons, and it was impressive, and it was never forget that first time experience with it. So I was also super hyped for Ocarina of Time when that came out, and I ordered it a long time before it was released, and I had all magazines, and I really, now today you can always look on things online, with trailers and stuff like that. But then you only had like this gamer magazines with images, and like every new image you're like, wow, like it looked so cool.
Of course, it felt more exclusive.
You built up that expectation for the game in a different way. So also playing Ocarina of Time for the first time, and with a couple of friends, and it was, I truly felt with that game that you really got to experience another world in a way. It felt so alive, Hyrule, with all the possibilities when you leave like Kokiri Forest and go to Hyrule Field, and for the first time when you see the sun is setting, it has its own night and day cycle, and I like, wow, this is incredible, like really transporting yourself into Hyrule. And I will never forget those memories with that game. And I always like pushing the boundaries what you can do with a video game, always pushing it further every time with a new Zelda release. And Ocarina of Time for me also cemented like video games can be like this art form, it can really like build up this another world like you can transport yourself into. So a really big thing for me as a gamer in my gaming journey, just with Ocarina of Time. Totally mind blown, what you could do, and played got my Nintendo 64, played Mario 64, really liked that, but like Ocarina of Time really felt like this living, breathing world in a way. Today, when you return, I think it still has a very special feeling, Ocarina of Time, even if the environments and everything can look blocky today, compared to today's graphics, of course. But I still think it has, for me, like video games age like, fine wine in a way. Even if the graphics are old and stuff, like it still has this sort of feel to it, still. So Ocarina of Time is, masterpiece, absolute masterpiece.
I can definitely relate like a lot. Like even if we were Tracer Steps 2, when you mentioned the first game in the series on the NES, and it just feels like that game is so much open world. It's almost like it's to someone who didn't play anything like it before. It felt like it was so open world, like it opened up your mind to like, okay, you're this little teeny tiny character in a completely new world, and you don't even know what to do, but you know that you can kill stuff once you get your sword, but you don't know where to go, and you can't really find it out unless you would ask someone who actually knows. There's no internet around, so you need to go through magazines and stuff like that. And it's just feel like, it's really hard to figure out where to go and what to do, so it's almost off-putting playing the game. And the second game is so difficult that I didn't even want to play it. But Ocarina of Time is a game changer in every single way. The immersiveness, the storytelling, the sounds, the visuals, despite the fact that it was super blocky. But it was just the charm. It was so amazing. And I love these voices. One of the things that stuck with me ever since I played it through the first time is actually the voice character, the voice actor who actually had the voice for Link. His grunts and screams. I still think of in martial arts and stuff like that, if it would be for that specific person in real life, I wouldn't have screamed the way that I do, maybe in martial arts. So I don't really scream like that, but it's still like, when I scream, I have this way of sounding that's almost reminiscent of that.
Nice. Yeah, because it's very memorable. Like today, it's so normal today. Every major video game franchise, you have actors who portray the characters and stuff like that. But at that time, it was sort of brand new that you hear like sound effects and laughter. As it's so minimal in Ocarina of Time. Just as I say with Link, with all the sound effects, but also like with Zelda, she laughs or small things,
Yeah.
But it does so much for the characters. Also, when just talking to townspeople around or people around in Hyrule, just small sound effect in the beginning of the conversation do a lot for the character, I think.
True.
And as you said, the music and just the way you can carry this Ocarina with you everywhere. You can play like basically every theme or music on that
Yes.
Ocarina. And I found a webpage, I remember, that so I learned to play the Simpsons theme on the Ocarina in game and stuff like that. It's so cool that you had all the notes and everything. It's timeless masterpiece, I think.
Yeah.
And it's so impressive. I mean, games today are like 100 gigs sometimes in size. And I remember Ocarina of Time is like 256 megabytes or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have that much space on the cartridge,
No, true.
So it's so cool that you can do all that, designing the characters and then trying to recreate that in the game engine and still have that sort of lived-in world with those small, limited, memory size and tools. I think it's so cool.
Yeah,
really.
And you actually reminded me now, like, this takes me back to that one time. I remembered in the house that I grew up in. This was like, by the time that I was maybe like in the 6th grade or something like that.
Yeah.
And I remembered my sister in the same age. She had this friend over, and these were, these two, they didn't play video games usually. But here it's like, I just came into my room where the TV was along with the game on the Nintendo 64, and they had the game playing, and they were on the Ocarina and trying to play these local Swedish children's songs. And it's like,
cool.
How would you manage? And apparently they've been there for hours trying to find, okay, if I do this with that button and this with the stick, I managed to achieve that note, and here you go, Baba Vita Lam in Swedish. And it's like, how'd you do that?
No, but it's super cool. Like you could really do anything with it. It's so impressive, and that's still going on today. Speaking about Final Fantasy Rebirth, you can play the piano at different spots in the game. But I think you could play the piano also in the original Final Fantasy VII. But I don't think you could go so much into detail doing it. But here, like with Ocarina of Time, and you carrying this thing with you through the whole game,
Yeah.
And you can also, you had this Scarecrow song as well.
Yeah.
So you could compose your own song to call this Scarecrow that could help you in certain situations and stuff.
Ah.
So that was pretty cool as well. You could compose your own song.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was brilliant. It was really,
Yeah.
really brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little question for you, Johan.
Yeah.
Did you play through the 3DS remake or remaster version of the Ocarina of Time game?
No, I borrowed it from you, I remember. But I played a bit of it. I think it was really good. I finished the first temple and I got to London Ranch and like around there in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it was very cool. I mean, I like the graphics update. It's definitely a game that they really should make a good remaster of, I think, for the Switch or the next Switch. But it still holds up pretty good, I think. And it was nice going back to it. Still has that magic feeling, and also with little better graphics and with this 3D immersion in it. So, it's pretty fun, I would say. Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. The one thing that I like kind of less is that they did update the graphics kind of a bit. This is a game from 2011, the remastered version, compared to the original, which was back in 98.
Yeah.
So there's quite a gap there. But, given the controls of the Nintendo 64 controller, despite the fact that the Nintendo 64 controller is not that good, it was still, the childhood memory, and so it fits into the game.
Yeah.
But the 3DS, given the fact that, it's a flat kind of controller,
Yeah.
with the clamshell design, so it's like, flat, and it's not a thumb stick, but it's a thumb pad. It works, but it's not really good for, fast kind of, fast-paced action.
No.
So there was that. So you do get used to it, and they did add gyro on the 3DS version as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And the 3D.
Yeah, because I remember it was easier to aim when you're using the bow or slingshot. Like you can aim with the console basically, and that was cool. I actually I played it to death on Nintendo 64, Ocarina of Time. But then when I got the Wind Waker for GameCube, I got the edition that you got Ocarina of Time as a bonus to it.
With Master Quest.
With Master Quest, yes, that's the edition I have, and it was so cool to play Ocarina of Time with the GameCube controller because I really liked that controller, and it felt like I don't have to worry about this little plastic stick, on Nintendo 64. I had a real controller, even if it wasn't perfect because you have to adapt it to the GameCube controller.
Yeah.
But it was a smoother experience, I would say, with that control. I really like that.
I can definitely agree. Like I've finished Ocarina of Time so many times with different with these different first-party renditions of it, including the GameCube versions, both the original and Master Quest.
Yeah.
So with the GameCube controller, it actually really works well.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. No, but it's Nintendo should be ashamed, I think, of how bad they are at releasing remasters, or they're starting to do it a little bit more, but why?
It's way too slow.
Way too slow. And when you have, we got the Skyward Sword a couple of years ago, and it has its fans, of course, but why do you not release Wind Waker or Twilight Princess that's on Wii U in HD already? Why don't you release it on the Switch?
And speaking of which,
it's a no-brainer. Come on.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
And then we have, the Game Boy Color exclusives. I'm thinking of the wrong names right now. Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages.
Yeah, that's true.
Those games are actually good, but I definitely think that they don't really hold up today in certain aspects. First, because of the graphics. Second of all, okay, I'm not really spoiling anything, but the ending is really difficult in one of them, or maybe in both. So I'm not playing through them anytime soon, unless they would, make an effort.
They're on the Nintendo. They're on Switch now with the online service. For Game Boy. So they have both oracles now. But I actually got, after A Link to the Past, I got Link's Awakening on Game Boy, and that was very cool to have you can take it wherever you want and play Zelda. And I think Link's Awakening is a very good Zelda game, a little bit different in style, but it works well on the Game Boy, and I really like the remaster we got of that on Switch a couple of years ago.
That became a masterpiece compared to the original.
Yeah, I really liked it. I like this cute, like almost toy doll-like graphics, perfectly suited for Link's Awakening, and this small world, but it's still so good. Good dungeons, really fun dungeons.
Yeah,
and the music was really good. They had the same tracks, but good versions with orchestra. And one of the temples, if it's the 6th or the 7th, have like this cool mix of 8-bit soundtrack from the Game Boy combined with orchestra. Really good mix. But I played it to death. Link's Awakening on the Switch, really fun, and you can always also design your own dungeons in that game. That was pretty fun with. So I tried that a bit because you have to do it to get the last heart pieces and stuff like that. You have to do it, but I don't do that every time because that takes time to do those things. But but just to play it, really good Zelda game, I think.
So, can you mention from the top of your head which of the Zelda games that you actually played?
All of them. Yeah, I went back to play the first and the second on Nintendo 8-bit after A Link to the Past, yes. And then, as you say, Link's Awakening, and then I play Ocarina of Time, and also Majora's Mask, a huge fan favorite as well. And I played... I didn't have those Oracle of Seasons that we mentioned. I didn't have those, and I didn't have Spirit Tracks, is it called that? And still I missed all those. But then when I got to Wii, my first game I got was Twilight Princess for Wii. So that was nice. But I still want to play that with real controls, not motion controller. I haven't had the opportunity to do that. But of course, before that I played Wind Waker on GameCube also. I actually liked the art style for that game. I know lots of fans wanted a more dark and gritty sort of Zelda, you know.
Yeah.
Because they showed a trailer for the GameCube, and it was this more darker, realistic Zelda fight.
I remember that one.
Link versus Ganon.
Yeah.
And so all fans, darker Zelda, oh so cool. And then they released Wind Waker with this cute graphic style, and everybody, what the hell is this? You know.
I was one of them.
Yeah. But I mean, I really enjoyed it because I had good control, and this like cel shading graphics in Wind Waker has aged so well. It looks amazing still today. It looks like a cartoon still.
Yeah, especially the HD versions.
Yeah,
given the fact that,
yeah.
it's almost like they implemented HDR with vibrant colors.
Cool. No, so I actually like that one. The only downside with Wind Waker, I think, in the original was the way you're supposed to change the wind. I think they changed that for the Wii U version. They can do it more easily, and you can go faster with the boat because it was slower in the original.
Yes.
And I also missed some bigger islands. Lots of small islands in Wind Waker. I would prefer a little bigger ones, a little more variation.
Yeah.
But other than that, I thought that was really good also. But and I like Twilight Princess was cool. It was a little bit more streamlined, I think, a little more linear perhaps. But I liked the darker feel of it, you know. And then Skyward Sword I didn't play until I got it on the Switch a couple of years ago.
And that was worth it, I can say.
Yeah. But it was nice. I mean, the controls are horrible because but why it's motion control, you know, Skyward Sword. I tried it with the motion control on the Switch, but I didn't think it worked very well. And then I used the more, new control you can play with the controller. But yeah, it works. I completed it. I did a lot of extra stuff in it, but it was the controls are not good. Otherwise, I liked it. I liked the style, and I thought it was pretty cool actually. And after that, I of course played Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom last year.
Yeah.
So I played the major big ones, but the smaller ones, like I said, on the handheld systems, I know I missed someone there.
Yeah.
And I still want this HD release on Switch for Twilight Princess and Wind Waker.
Oh yes, there's a whole fan base for those right there.
Why not? It will print money. Why won't you do it? It's
exactly.
stupid.
That's true.
Nintendo should definitely hurry up and release more games.
I remember there was this game, I believe that there was one edition released secondary on GameCube and primary was it on Game Boy Advance, The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords.
Yeah, I didn't play that, but now that you're talking about this, I also played the Minish Cap on Game Boy Color.
Oh yes!
No, Game Boy Advance, sorry.
Yeah, true.
And I really liked it. It was like a Capcom Nintendo collaboration or something.
Was.
Very strange collaboration, but a good one. I mean, it had like this sort of Wind Waker, also cutesy graphic, but it was fun, so nice to shrink down and walk around, in this big world. And I replayed it because they released it, I think, last year on Switch on the online service. So I went back and completed it, and it was really nice. Really good dungeons in that game.
It is. It almost feels like it's a little bit too short, I believe.
Yeah. But I was actually quite satisfied after completing it. I did a lot of extras in it also, and that was a pretty good Zelda game after I completed it. And I really liked the art style. So which one have you played? Everyone, even the more obscure ones.
Well, let's see here. I haven't played every single one in the series, but the ones developed by Nintendo, given the fact that there are 3 developed by Philips.
Yes, I just remember.
I don't want to deep dive into those, but I hate them without having played them.
Oh yeah, the Philips.
Wand of Gamelon, Adventures of Zelda. And there's a third one.
With the mask something.
Yeah.
Faces of Evil or something
like
that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my.
Those were side-scroller, right?
Side-scroller done with some strange art style, and the graphics are horrible, the controls are horrible. But seldom in my life have I laughed so hard at watching the cutscenes because they're so badly animated and voiced. And it's so funny to watch, and it's the Zelda CDI games.
Oh yeah,
they're so bad, they're so horrible that it's so funny to watch. So if you're listening and haven't checked those out, check it out on YouTube because they're so funny. The Zelda cutscenes through CDI, it's so horrible. It's hard to imagine, but it's such a weird, like, how the hell did they get the license to do that? Because they're licensed products, you know.
They are, exactly. And speaking of watching these on YouTube, I would definitely recommend, because neither of us have played through these games, and it's just worth to know how bad they are, given the way how it looks and sounds and everything. Watch this YouTuber, let's see here, it's Cinemassacre.
Angry video game nerd.
Yes, he has like at least one episode where he plays these 3 to showcase how bad they are.
Yeah.
And he does it well.
It's good fun, Yeah, but they're horrible. I mean, because I remember growing up, I saw in those Nintendo magazines here in Sweden, I saw images of that, and I'm like, oh my god, a new Zelda game? Why haven't I heard about it like that?
Yeah.
But then it's good that I didn't hear about it.
Oh yes.
Because I think the console, like the CD drive, was sort of expensive as well, and like the games were horrible. Not just the Zelda games, but I don't think it had any good games on it. Like, it's such a strange collaboration with Philips. And
definitely weird.
Yeah.
So but I was also thinking about, let's see here, if as we are both fans of The Legend of Zelda 3: A Link to the Past.
Yeah.
There is this one game, A Link Between Worlds, which is a 3DS exclusive game, and it is considered to be a spiritual spiritual sequel to A Link to the Past. Yeah. And I really love how it just continues a story, how it could have looked, continuing on with the story, where, you know, you would have Hyrule and this new game it's not new anymore, but still on 3DS it introduces Lorule.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's just amazing. It's still the same perspective. It's the best kind of graphics that a 3DS can produce, pretty much, and it's amazing.
I think that's the best one I have never played, because it looks really good, what I've seen from reviews and stuff like that. And as you say, it's such a cool successor to A Link to the Past, and I have to play that one. Once. They should also make that available for the Switch in some way, even if it's like 2 screens. If you can solve that somehow, it would be really cool to play it, because it looks really fun. Especially growing up with A Link to the Past, as you said, it would be really cool to go back to it like that.
Yeah, definitely.
True.
And then we can talk about, let's see here, there are these kind of spin-off games. Let's first just talk about the absolute worst game in the entire series, according to me, developed by Nintendo themselves. Yeah. That is the one called Triforce Heroes.
Triforce Heroes, okay.
So that one was released not that long ago. I do remember it could be somewhere like, 2014 or 17 or something like that. It was on the 3DS, and you could connect with wirelessly with other people owning the game, I believe, or not actually, and through remote play or whatever it was called on the 3DS, and you would play as different Link variations with different colored clothes.
Yeah, because it's a co-op game basically. Yeah.
But the thing about this is that I remember that this does not really feel like a Zelda game, and I've forgotten the absolute reason why. But it felt like it was just puzzled together in a different kind of way, and you would play through these separate levels, and it's just something that's so off-putting about the game. I remember this one is a little bit almost like there's this one game, maybe it was there was one of these portable Zelda games where it was like actually it was a GameCube version of the game. I'm thinking about, there's this, usually a Zelda game means that you can have different items, different abilities, and different equipment at your disposal at any time. But in one of these games, you can only carry one at a time. And it becomes a different challenge in itself, but it's also one of those things that is like, come on, it just becomes unnecessarily challenging.
Because it started, I think, with, was it 4 Swords on...
maybe it was 4 Swords
on the
GameCube.
It started this sort of like multiplayer Zelda experience. I never tried those at all, because I don't know if it's... I don't know, it didn't was appealing to me. Like for me, playing as Link and saving Hyrule and Zelda, defeating Ganon was this sort of solo quest. You know, I never thought of it as a co-op game. And when I looked at footage for so it feels like more like a couple of friends getting together, just solving puzzles, basically.
Exactly.
So it never had like that interest for me to play it. But it's interesting, like co-op side of Zelda. That's not that explored, as you say. It's usually the same formula in all those sword versions, basically.
Oh yeah. And then there are 2 actually additional games that are very original in their way of just being Zelda games.
Yeah.
And these are the ones on the DS. So there are Spirit Tracks, and there are what's the other one called? At least, well, they were, the gameplay experience is roughly the same.
Yeah.
So in one of them, you traverse the entire world by the boat. So it's pretty much a spiritual sequel to Wind Waker.
Yeah.
And the other one is by trains.
Yeah.
And
I think Spirit Tracks is
Spirit
by train,
Tracks is,
like train track.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I forgot the other title, the one with the boat.
Same
and
here.
they are just so much more different, because here you would have the DS, not the 3DS, meaning that it's not as powerful of a game, game handheld.
Yeah.
And you would have the lower screen, which is you control everything with a pen or with your fingernail as you would scribble things. And you would make a circle, and you pretty much point in the direction you want Link to go, and you would use the buttons on the console to make different kinds of inputs. And it actually works very simple. Point on this enemy to attack, swipe in this direction to not stab, and simply swing and stuff like that. And it's very intuitive. It's really much, reimagining what a Zelda game could be. And, despite them being very, very difficult, I would definitely say that at least try to play through one of them.
Yeah.
And it's just so amazing how, it's just worth the journey.
Yeah. So you completed both those games?
Or... No, I've completed one. I've given up on Spirit Tracks.
Yeah, okay.
With the last boss.
Yeah, no, that's cool. They looked interesting also, I think, for the trailers and stuff. So, yeah. But it was, all the consoles you want to buy. And, sometimes you had to choose at that time before you start working and earning your money. But it's, I mean, I had actually a DS, a Nintendo DS, but I never had that. I had Mario 64 on it, and I had a couple of Castlevania games also. So those were nice. But I remember, like the Castlevania games, when you defeated a boss, you had to draw a pentagram or something on the screen because it was a touch screen, and it was horrible because the input was it wasn't that sensitive, and if you did it wrong, the boss got like half his energy back, so you have to fight him even more, and then you have to input with the pentagram again, hoping to make it. It ruined the game for me. It was very well done, that Castlevania game, but I still remember pointing this thing and making with the stylus and making the pentagram. So but as you said with Zelda, it sounds more refined in a way.
Like I remember with the DS, it had a major flaw, and this was back at the time when touchscreens that were around, unless the product in itself, like let's compare it to an iPhone, the iPhones have always been equipped with a very good touchscreen where it registers the conductive element of your fingers with the heat, but with the DS being more of a cheaper kind, it's like the cheaper version of a touchscreen where it actually reacts to physical press. So you have to really make contact, and it's very inconsistent with its register, and it's
I think it was very easy also to scrape the surface, to get a scratch or something on it. I remember.
That could happen too.
So it's no, but I mean, I think it's interesting when Nintendo releases something that pushes boundaries, like with touch, and you have the touch screen on the Switch now, for example, and so I like when they try to experiment, but sometimes, as you say, it's not the best version of that sort of thing, so you can maybe it doesn't work as intended. But I would like to try those DS games. Actually, it would be nice sometime to go back.
So What do you think about, if we would compare these kinds of, open world Zelda game and the linear kinds of Zelda games?
Yeah, yeah.
In which camp would you place yourselves, preferably?
I think I'm in camp linear, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I really enjoyed Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I think they are amazing games, really. I like the openness in a way, like you can explore and do so many things, but for me, I don't know. I'm still searching for that linear thing. Like, where should I go now? Where should I go? Which temple should I do? And I know some people hate that. They want a total freedom, just wandering around, stumbling upon things. And it has something of value to me also doing that. But I think I prefer having these temples and doing in a certain order and more knowing where to go and fighting the boss and moving on and. So I'm still in that linear feel because I think like Ocarina of Time, for example, had a good balance. You had to do the temple in a certain order, but you can still go around and explore the world as far as you could go. Maybe you needed a certain item to go past something, but I still explored a lot before going to the next dungeon and things like that. So I prefer a little bit like that. But the worst sin for me in those two games is that the weapon you have deteriorates and it breaks.
Oh yeah.
The weapon breaks, and I hate that.
Yeah.
Because some people like it. I mean, I have never been in both those games. I completed both of them, and I've never been without a weapon. I always have a weapon. It's not that. But I like having a weapon that I really enjoy and maybe improving it and leveling it up, or maybe go to a smith or something and bring me 10 crystals and you will have this, something like, you can improve it and still have my favorite weapon. I can still build on that,
Yeah.
And I miss that feeling because sometimes every time when I saw a cave or something should I go in? Do I have weapons for it? I never knew that. And if I had a good weapon with me, I have this weapon, I can face anything like that. Of course, you have more like this sort of tension as a gamer if you don't have that safety net, basically. And I still never had too much trouble with those games, with difficulties. But for me, I just prefer having linear cell experience and weapons that don't break. That's even more important.
Oh yeah.
So I think it can be fun with that, and also, for example, with thinking about the environment. Like now you're in a cold environment, you have to have clothes that's warm, or if you're in a warm environment, you have to have lighter clothes and stuff like that. But sometimes I think you can go a bit too far. You have to think about what you're eating, what you're wearing, and stuff like that, and it becomes more lots more chores in a way to do.
Yeah, like tedious.
Game. Yeah, it's tedious. Yeah, and I think it can be too much. So I prefer more linear in that way and not so much tedious tasks around. But then again, you have an enormous amount of gamers that really like all that, to think about that and trying different recipes for food in that game because you can cook a lot and stuff like that, and trying finding different things so I really liked them and I completed both games, but afterwards I feel like I'm sort of done. I haven't done everything in those games because they're enormous games.
Oh yeah, sure.
But I feel like I have had the experience of those games, while I can go back to the more linear games more often and I want to play Link's Awakening again or Ocarina of Time again or something like that. So how about you? Yeah, you're on linear as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely on linear so much because I feel like while the first game introduced the open world game to the Zelda series, they did it kind of in a good way, but it still could have done it better in my own preference.
Yeah.
And with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom being like in the same genre, I feel like I don't like not being told where to go.
Yeah.
Not necessarily through like a marker, okay, go to this place on the map and do this mission, but rather, okay, you need to pretty much visit the let's say Zora's domain and speak to this individual, and it's like, okay, you don't know where it is exactly, but you're being told a little bit of a vague direction. Okay, it's by with a watery kind of stuff, a lot of water and stuff like that. And you would find the place and you would look around and try to find where you would go, and it's like it's enough to get you started on your mission. Like you would have main quests and side quests, but not really differentiating so much. Like, okay, this is so big where the amount of side quests could be so overwhelming that there are thousands of them seemingly. And you would have first and foremost actual temples of numerous kinds.
Yeah,
Instead
I
of there being
missed that.
4 big ones and tons of shrines
Yeah.
with just one major challenge per
Yeah.
one of them, just doing them twice, one easy and one hard.
Yeah, I must say, in Tears of the Kingdom, I really enjoyed the shrines. I think they were really fun, all of them. But I miss, as you said, I miss the temples, like going to the temple, getting the map, getting the master key, compass, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I think the bosses in Tears of the Kingdom was sort of underwhelming in a way. I didn't have those, like, I think even like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker had really good boss encounters. But I don't know, it's sort of like, I don't know, forgettable bosses in those in the new Zelda games for some reason.
Definitely.
The final conflict with Ganon is usually very well made, and I think it was very cool in Twilight Princess that you get lots of you have all the voices for the characters and lots of like cinematics when Ganon is destroying the world and things like. It was very cool, I enjoyed the Tears of the Kingdom a lot more than Breath of the Wild. But also you can also fuse things to your weapons in that one.
That was such a game changer.
Yeah, so you didn't break that easily in the second one. But still unnecessary, I think. So yeah, I think they've fixed a lot of it, even if it's basically it takes place in the same map, but it changed enough to make it feel fresh, But then again, with Tears of the Kingdom, for example, I didn't explore the underworld that much because you can travel beneath Hyrule, and it's basically the same map, but in the dark, And just visually, it's so I think it's boring in a way.
It's depressing too.
Yeah, it's so dark, and you have these lights, arrows and stuff with these flowers you can use. But at the same time, I didn't go. I did some things down there, but at the same time, it's just like, I didn't enjoy it that much. And I think also in the heavens above Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom, it's nice to explore, but it's not that big actually. Not so much to do there. Some temple and shrines, yes, but I was expecting more, I think.
Yeah.
So interesting to see where they're taking this series now with because now basically it's confirmed for a Switch 2 next year.
Yeah.
To see where they take it in a couple of years, I guess, with a new game. But if they continue with this more very open feel to it, or back to the more streamlined, more linear, I don't know. I would prefer compromise, more streamlined, more dungeons, more bosses like that.
Yeah.
Also combined with freedom, of course, but more balance. Yeah.
And I was thinking about there was this article that I found somewhere on the internet mentioning that the producer of the Zelda series this far, Eiji Aonuma.
Yeah.
He mentioned something in an interview, saying something like, would you fans really want to backtrack towards the times when the Zelda games were all about that the choice were predetermined by the developer and not you as gamers. You gamers do not really get to choose as much what you want to do in the game, but because of the linear structure, you're being told what to do. And I feel like that is exactly what we want. Not too limited, but most of the time.
As I say, a compromise between the open and the linear in some cool way. Because
exactly.
His question is very interesting as he puts it, because as you say, you have total freedom in a way. I mean, you're still hold back like with how many hearts you have, what sort of weapon you have, and your armor and stuff like that. If you walk into certain areas, you will die. Like that. And so you're still in some way limited on what you're doing. But I totally get what he's meaning, that in a way you create your own quest, even if you have to do, because you have to do temples in both games, even if you have the freedom, if you want to complete the story, you have to, in a way, because you can go straight to Ganon and complete it if you want. If you're like insane, you can do that, like if you're that good at the game. But if you do that, you will miss everything else, So it's a cool thing to, when you start Breath of the Wild and think, I could go and face Ganon. I would never make it in a million years, but I can do it. I mean, it's an interesting thing. But I prefer also more like growing and like feeling like Ganon is this, or like for Ocarina of Time, for example, like this Ganon is this powerful dude, and he's like always in the shadows in a way, and you progressively get stronger as Link with heart pieces and everything you do, and then you're an adult in in the future at the end. So it's very special, the journey you have made, because it's linear when you're facing Ganon in the end, I think. But yeah, I think it's a matter of taste, what you like as a gamer, and lots of people today enjoy a lot of open world games, absolutely. And lots of series are taking that route to try more open world. We talked earlier today about Metal Gear Solid 5 as an example, a deviation from the series with more open world. And I think the rumors now also for Resident Evil is that the next game will have more open world elements to it compared to the other ones.
Interesting.
So it's interesting, yeah. But at the same time, yeah, you can make for me, Metal Gear Solid is my all-time favorite game series. But I didn't really enjoy the Phantom Pain. I know a lot of fans do, it's their favorite, but for me that was a case of open world with very barren. There's not so much things to do in it, and it's hard to get around.
Agreed.
And so it's like, yeah, you can have an open world, but you still have to make it come alive, and you have to do that. You compare actually with Tears of the Kingdom to Breath of the Wild, because Tears of the Kingdom has a lot more things to do in it. Wherever you turn in that world, there's always a quest or something to do. Because that Nintendo learned a lesson there, that you have to populate the world with characters and quests and stuff like that, because otherwise it's a nice backdrop, but there's nothing much to do in it.
Exactly.
So it has its own challenges. Just having an open world doesn't make the game 10 times better just because it's open world. You have to work out a good game also. But it's interesting. I think it's interesting with the freedom of it. But yeah, now so many years with now Tears of the Kingdom, I think the next one should be more traditional Zelda with. I mean, imagine with newer graphics today, a little bit more. Yeah, of course you have the Zelda style. You will never have it totally realistic, but like have like Twilight Princess, but just with better graphics in a way, and a little bit more open world with more temples and bosses and more puzzles like that. Yeah, it would be very cool. Interesting to see what to do in the future, I think. Yeah,
that'd be super interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about this one question.
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like, there's, part of the game series, or specifically one of the Zelda games, where it feels like, okay, this brings out a nostalgic, happy childhood memory. And why would that be so?
I mean, I think I get, both A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time I can get really nostalgic for, absolutely. I like the music, and A Link to the Past I always get like the ending is so good in A Link to the Past. I mean, the first memory when you get to the Dark World for the first time, you think you defeated this wizard, Aganim, something
I believe,
something like that. But it's like, oh yeah, I beaten the wizard, now I'm going to save Zelda in a way. But no, this is just the start of the game.
Yeah.
And that's super cool. And you get to this pyramid in the Dark World, and you see in the distance, like the sun is setting, and you see this tower of Ganon, and we have to walk there and face Ganon to save Zelda for real. And that was a very special feeling. But I always love when you complete the game. This is super weird. But when you see the ending and everybody's happy, you saved everyone. But then they cut to these 3D renditions of the Triforce that just like swinging around in the air like that. And first you see the Dark World, the sun is setting, but then it changes gradually into the Light World as credits start to roll. And it's so nostalgic for me, just the way it's shifting, and the music, it's like this emotional music. It's sort of somber in a way. That moment, exactly that moment, it's super weird, I know. But that always hit me in the feels, like, because I always remember when I was like 9 or 10, growing up with my family and playing that game, maybe summer evenings, the sun was setting, and you had this feeling of joy playing the game, and then you hear this music, and you're seeing these graphics. So that moment will be very special for me. And also, like playing Ocarina of Time and just walking around at sunset. Because when you enter a town, it freezes the time, And I never forget the first time I went to Kakariko village, because the sun was right about to set, but you still had the music in the town, and just walking around with this feeling, like it's such a lived-in world. It felt like that for the first time playing it. And also all the music to Ocarina of Time is also very nostalgic for me. I played it so many times when I was growing up.
Oh yeah.
So I have it's sort of almost like this nostalgic feeling when the sun is setting in Ocarina of Time and walking around. I could just walk around in the Kakariko village or in where the Kokiri forest or places like that at that time, just freezing the time at sunset and just enjoying walking around and experiencing the music and playing the ocarina, and stuff like that. Just exploring.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ocarina of Time also, just the whole experience of playing the game is very nostalgic, absolutely. So those games are definitely the most strong. But I guess
Nice.
like newer gamers today will have the same experiences with Tears of the Kingdom, for example, probably some of the
Yeah.
newer games. So how about you? Do you have like those nostalgic?
Yeah. First and foremost, have the main favorite being Ocarina of Time also.
Yeah.
And I would definitely say that despite the controls of the 3DS, that is the best rendition of the game.
Yeah.
And I just love everything about it, down to the feels where it's like, I love the music, the characters, the controller.
Yeah.
Still. And it feels like, it's somewhat of a long game as you start it, because you feel like, okay, this will take a while to finish. But then again, being used to it, it always feels short. And once you have finished, the last boss or so, it feels like, okay, you can just go back in where you left off and just go around and, doing stuff that's not really part of, the story because it's finished.
Yeah.
Because it always leaves me feeling wanting for more.
Yeah.
To the point where I feel like they should carry this on, have these graphics to implement in another Zelda game. I want Link to look like this in the future video games, but with high resolution. And obviously you have Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
But it was very much a disappointment because the version of Link on the Nintendo 64 was the adult version, but that version is not present in Majora's Mask unless you would have the Fierce Deity Mask.
Yeah.
Which is only present once you get the mask in bosses.
I have to ask you this, because Majora's Mask is a big favorite among many Zelda fans. They're their favorite, and we have almost not mentioned it today talking about Zelda.
No, true. I can talk about it.
Did you enjoy it? Because it's very different, because you have to turn back time. You have 3 days to complete the quest in a way.
Yeah.
But if you finish, time runs out, you have to play it back and you lose a lot of items, and then you start from the beginning again. And you can slow down time, you can speed up time, but if you completed a temple, for example, and you turn back time, you have to finish the boss again. You don't have to do the whole temple again, but you have to finish the boss.
Yeah.
Did you like that structure?
Actually, I would say that Zelda game feels like, it's very much a reimagination of what a Zelda game could be like. It doesn't. It actually deviates from the traditional recipe.
Yeah.
So it's not really an emphasis on the temples because there are way fewer of them.
Yeah, four, I think.
There are 4.
Yeah.
But there are, if I remember it correctly, 24 masks.
Yeah, lots of masks.
A few of them you get through the main story and just exploring the world. You would get others, while a portion of them you can only get by going out of your way. Like, one of them requires all the other masks.
Yes.
Some of them requires you to go through the entire story. And just before the timeline, there are 3 entire day and nights.
Yes.
Before the moon is going to crash into the earth on the 3rd night, you actually get your ocarina up and you would play Song of Time, and it brings you back to the first day.
Yeah.
So you would lose all your bombs, your arrows, your money. But the acquired masks you would keep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's just so different. It's kind of fun in a way, but it's also one of those games where it feels like it's tedious to collect all the masks if you would set your mind to that.
Yeah.
I've collected all the masks twice, once on the Nintendo 64 and once on the 3DS. And I feel like I'm never going to do it again. But then again, I remind myself, okay, if it gets a remake, I'm doing it.
Yeah. I would also do it if you get a remake of it. No, but I agree with what you say. I bought it for my Nintendo 64 when it came out, and I finished it once, and I completed with it all the masks. I collected all the masks, all the heart pieces, so I got this fierce deity mask, as you said, for the end boss and stuff like that. But after that, I I will never play that game again.
No.
Because I felt like I liked the darker side of it. It has a sort of a darker feeling.
It's even told by some that, Link is not even alive because he's dead.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It has like this cult thing around it.
Yeah.
But and lots of like sad storylines that you these side quests and stuff like that. It's very cool. But as you say, turning back time, and I don't think I would have so much problem with that if you didn't lose so many things. I mean, if you keep the masks, why can't you keep your arrows? Why can't you keep your money? You have to go to a bank and turn in all the money, and then you have to put it back if you want to take it out again, and so many tedious things to it. I mean, it was cool because it evolved certain things for Ocarina of Time. I think you didn't have these pre-rendered backgrounds, for example. Everything was in 3D, even inside houses and stuff like that. And what I can remember from the dungeons they were quite cool dungeons, and also you have this mask so you can change into Sora, Link, or different play styles like that, and that's very cool.
Yeah.
But as you say, just like this, always turning, but you always had this time pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing for me, because as we talked about a lot today, Zelda is a great game to just wander around the world, just exploring everything, not the feeling that you have to stress, that you have to think about this and this and this. You can just explore, take your time, just enjoy the graphics, environment, music, but you can't really do this in this game. I mean, you can of course spend these 3 days just doing that, but you have to turn back time again, and then you have to do it all over again. So it's so many tedious tasks, and following certain characters at a certain point of that day to complete certain things, and it just felt like so much work in a way. And I like the darker style of it. I love the music, and it's a very interesting sequel if you compare it to Ocarina of Time. I mean, I think it came out quite quickly after Ocarina of Time. If it was
2 years later.
2 years, something like that. And of course, it reuses a lot of assets from Ocarina of Time. Yeah. But I liked very much most of the style and the environments and bosses, and nice that you can change into like Goron Link, and they had like these Goron races spinning around. Yes. But it's but at a certain time, you have to do those things also many times if you screw it up, because you have to win certain items that you have to use to improve your sword, for example. Yeah. So I didn't make it. Okay, turn back time, finish the boss again, and then do I didn't. I didn't like that at all.
I can definitely understand why. Yeah. I did remember that I got myself into this mindset of Majora's Mask where it was like, okay, the first thing that I always do was to slow down the time with playing Song of Time backwards. Yeah. And from that point on, I remembered, okay, if you want to start a temple, make sure to do it early on the first day, because it's going to take you on the first run or so roughly around 2 days with 1 night. And in game, and as you would do that, then you would get yourself, in that finished temple of yours, you would have this fast travel thingy mechanism that would bring you to the boss room once you would enter the temple. So you could easily just make the boss fight, and in way shorter amount of time you would still have enough time to in the same game cycle, day and night system, you would still be able to do other things. Like sometimes certain quests you can only do on the 3rd day. Exactly. And certain quests, I think you could just complete, like the end of that was when there were like 15 minutes left or something on the last day or something like that. I mean, it is a cool aspect in a way, thinking about time like that in a game. What is time basically, and you can like rewind, you can do it over, you can try different things like that. The concept is cool in theory, but I just felt it was too tedious in a way. If you could keep more of your items, say all your items, money, arrows, everything, just keep those when you went back. Because there's no reason why you don't do it. It's just so strange. And in a way, maybe you didn't have to fight the bosses again. But then it's connected to certain character quests that you couldn't save an area, for example, because this quest takes place before you save that area. I mean,
But yeah, I just felt tedious. So many chores to do, and at the end, I mean, the end boss isn't that difficult, really. So it's like, yeah, I did all that for what, basically. But yeah, some of the quest lines I enjoyed, like the story sticks with you. So it was in a way more mature and darker game than Ocarina of Time was. And I like the concept, like the bad guy is this this guy from Ocarina of Time that plays the flute in the Kokiri forest.
Oh yes,
and
true.
that he finds this mask and becomes this evil. You know, it's a
Yeah,
fun.
he didn't even mean to do it. What was
No,
that, the
something
story?
something like that. But I think it's a fun idea to have as a villain instead of Ganon. That's always the villain, you know.
Yeah.
But I've never gone back to it, and now you can play it with save states, you know, and as you say, and I think it's some easier way to do with certain things on the Game Boy 3DS. I think certain things are easier in that version than in the original.
I do believe so. I don't remember which ones, but some,
I think they changed some things, I think. So I have to try that one. But I respect it. I totally get why it has it following. But for me, Zelda should never have like this stress level and thinking about time always and stressing through and just checking things off basically just to get a mask or something like that.
Exactly.
I didn't like the structure like that.
It could have been executed better.
But cool, I mean, in a way, thinking outside of the box for a sequel, in a way, you know, doing something very different with same assets, in a way. So it's a little bit cool thinking about Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, because that also takes place in the same world. They have a lot of the same assets, in a way. But they changed enough, I think, in Tears of the Kingdom to make it feel fresh. Interesting.
Yeah, it is. So that was very fun to talk about. I feel like we've talked about everything essential.
Yeah. Same here. No, it is a game series that changed a lot for me, getting into gaming with A Link to the Past more, and then Ocarina of Time was this game changer, looking at games as an art form. That I was really struck by that. Like, oh my god, this is amazing what you can do, and so many influences in video games after that, you know. But it's a very interesting game series that always pushes boundaries. Like now Tears of the Kingdom has this crafting system that you can build all these vehicles and stuff, and so many fun creation, people making all like these cages with lasers and killing lots of enemies and frying chicken and stuff like that. There's so many fun things you can build. I mean, it really sparks creativity, and it's also like speaking about social media, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom flourished on social media because people are making these crazy creations in that game. So I mean,
truly.
It really truly lets the player just have fun, do whatever you want, basically, you know. And that's a very cool approach, I think. But even though I like that, I would still prefer to go into more linear next time.
Definitely.
More traditional, a little bit more darker, maybe a little bit more realistic graphic, maybe.
Yes, please.
Maybe change it up from this. I like the art style in the new ones with this cartoon. I mean, it's a little bit of more adult than Wind Waker, of course, but same time it's cool, like more like Twilight Princess, more darker like that. A little bit like Majora's Mask, darker story with those kind of graphics. Really cool, I think. What are you hoping for besides linear? Is this something special for the new game that you would like also, or?
Yeah, I'm thinking keep the traditional kind of recipe for a Zelda game. I'm thinking like, bring Ganondorf back, and maybe even Ganon, of course, as the final boss or whatever. But I really want to, bring justice to that 2004-2005 trailer that we got pre-GameCube stuff. Where we had Link fighting Ganon with those graphics, but, even more better, because, those graphics aren't bad as of today.
No.
And it's just so amazing because this is just a film sequence lasting for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
But, I could watch it over and over again because I want it to be longer.
Yeah. It's so cool, the power of those seconds in that video. It's sparked all the fans' imaginations, afterwards. And I don't think you would have had Twilight Princess if it hadn't been for that short video of this more darker adult sort of Link.
Yeah,
and,
I would believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and also the reaction to Wind Waker, of course. But
Yeah.
yeah. And we're also getting a Zelda movie. It's in the work, but that's going to be live action. That is going to be interesting to see. Zelda would be perfect as an animated movie, you know, with the style it's made in the newer games. But they're making a live action movie.
Yeah.
We'll see how that turns out. It's going to play Link and Ganon and stuff. Yeah, it'll be cool.
Yeah, of course. It's going to be very fun, you know, like now that Nintendo seems to, you know, make different kinds of movies more and more. And I mean, you're not just playing with power these days.
No, no, but it's true. And I actually enjoyed the Super Mario movie that came out. I think last year. I think it was good. It was fun.
It was amazing.
Lots of fun, especially for video game nerds like us.
Yeah.
It's so many fun Easter eggs and lots of humor. And I really enjoyed it actually. Yeah. See what happens in the future with Zelda.
Yes.
It will be interesting times.
Definitely. So thank you guys for having listened to us.
Yeah.
And we hope that you listen in for the upcoming episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are your favorite Zelda games? Let us know in the comments below. What are your favorite Zelda memories and gaming experiences?
Oh yeah, like a top 3 list.
Yeah, that would be cool. Okay, so thank you for listening and talk to you again next time. Bye.
Bye.